Yeah, he's incredible. Obviously, I was with him, and we were together at Bama, and then we came here, and we were fortunate enough to get him a couple years later. He does have a knack, like you said, he does have a knack for the ball. He's fearless going for blocks. You got to live with some of it in terms of because he comes free and he's so fast that maybe there may be a time where he runs into the punter or the kicker if it's too tight. But I'll take the risk and reward there because 9 times out of 10 he takes it off the foot and does a good job with his hands. But the guy is elite at special teams, whether it's punt coverage, kick coverage, and that doesn't get talked about enough because obviously when you block 6 punts in 2 years, that's what you talk about. But the amount of times he's been able to stop the returner from getting vertical, making the play or forcing the play to someone else has been unchartable the last 2 years. So we rely heavy on Keelan on the team's part of it. We got to be smart in training camp of not wearing him out because he is in coverage and return. I'm excited for him to take another step on the kick return part of it, and we'll see where it goes. But he's special. It's fun to coach him.
Before I left, Coach Mike, you've been around a lot of really good football coaches. What does Sark do that you like the most, and where do you think he's grown the most since you know him?
Yeah, I think with Sark, he walks the walk, right? So you come in and immediately his energy level's higher than everybody in the building. And so right off the bat, the number one thing that Sark brings to the table is energy and positivity. And as a head coach, a lot of times the ebb and flow of what goes on day to day, he might be affected by the head coach, and the assistants don't see it. He does a great job of that and not letting outside stuff affect him and his energy level. And so we feel like we got to raise our energy level when we come to working for Coach Sark because of how much juice he has when he comes in the building. And I think that permeates to the team. As far as where has he grown, I think just probably managing the complete day-to-day 365 days of being a head coach. I think he's done a tremendous job of managing the recruiting piece as a head coach, the CEO as the spokesman of our organization, and then coaching the coaches and the players, a day-to-day operations guy that way. From a play calling standpoint, he's the best in the business, and he'll continue to thrive on offense. But I think managing the rest of the job as a head coach, I think he's grown tremendously in the last 3 years.
Is that job different now than it's ever been?
Oh, tremendously. Because I think you have to be completely transparent more than ever with your players, right? Because of the transfer portal and the things that we've seen in the last, 12 to 18 months. I mean, you just got to be transparent and honest, but also have some understanding of what they're going through.
Dan, the left Jeff, Coach Sark was talking about just the depth of talent he feels is on the roster. When you look at your coverage units, your return units,
Yeah.
you like that depth, like this can be a group that's got some of the best coverage return units in the country with depth size together.
Yeah, I do. And overlooking at the last 48 hours just in preparation for, tonight's meeting with our team for the first time and all that, putting the depth charts out there for tomorrow's walkthrough. We start off our training camp without a depth chart. We kind of do 4 teams with veterans being in the first 2 units and then the rookies being in the second 2 units. It's by color. And, I was talking about the last group, the blue team. I'm like, that's a scary athletic blue team, and a lot of times those are walk-ons and those are those guys. This year it's like littered with DB, linebacker, running back types that can run and hit. So I'm excited to see how that competition takes place. But, we're going to have the talent. We'll have the buy-in. I think the veterans have done a heck of a job the last 2 years of setting the culture in the special teams room. Now it's just about, bringing those freshmen along and seeing who's about it, and I think the first 3 games give you that opportunity, right? You got to figure out, what veterans do you need to kind of make sure that if they're playing a ton on offense and defense that we can start to alleviate some of that role on special teams, and what freshman sophomore going to take that role on.
Stay over here, Danny.
Jeff, do Xavier and Keelan kind of enter camp as the favorites, the returners, and then about Xavier, what was it about him that made you confident to put him back there instead of someone like Deshaun who had been so established as a
Sure.
returner?
Well, I think at the end of the day, right, couple things. On punt return and kick return, number one is possession. And the major issue we saw from the year before was fieldable balls, catching the ball when it was fieldable. Number one. So possession's number one. The more balls you catch, the better chance you have of not only having successful returns, but saving yards from going backwards and rolling 20, 30 yards. And so when we charted those things, those first 2 years we were here, we were losing a ton of yardage in the open field from letting the ball hit the ground. So where you thought experience would have made up for that, it wasn't showing up. Xavier's going to train hard at whatever we ask him to do. He's a great coachable player to do that. So is Deshaun. And I think Deshaun will have success in the NFL because of that. But Xavier did a great job of buying into it. Really had, all season given us a chance to be explosive. I mean, he set up 3 scores from Kansas, Oklahoma State, and the first game of the season in Monroe. So, we probably were more of a pressure team than I've ever been last year, and that probably took away from Xavier's opportunities to return the ball. But I'm excited to kind of see where he goes moving forward. Keelan Robinson did a great job, had a few explosives for us. We blocked it. We blocked better than we have. We simplified some of our schemes and blocked it, but I thought Keelan did a nice job of getting the ball where it needed to be. I'm excited to see the finish. I think we need to finish more in the kick return game. We had, 3 returns over 40, and yet we couldn't score on that part of it. And that's a group effort. That's not just a returner. But there's some young, really cool players that are coming into this program that we got to find out what they can do in the return game. And, there's a ton of them. I mean, you got Jonte Cook, Demo, DeAndre Moore, you got A.D. Mitchell, you got Trey Wisner. I mean, we got a ton of these body types that can field the ball and track the ball. So we got to really, in training camp, take a look at those guys and see, along with Jay Witt, who else is going to compete for some of those jobs.
In the middle, Chip.
Captain, kind of a two-parter.
Yeah.
With the increased talent in the receiver room, does that affect the opportunities for J.T. Sanders? And can you talk about your relationship with Joe DeCamillis?
Yeah.
Sark said
Yeah.
that was the relationship that
Yeah, so the first one, JT, it's not necessarily about the opportunities as much as it is about taking advantage of the ones he gets, right? He might have got a lot of screens and calls behind the line of scrimmage last year to catch the ball, and so the numbers get inflated to 54 catches. But the ones that, moving forward, the ones that are going to continue to matter the most are going to be the 50-50 balls and the vertical threat, because that's what his strength is. This guy can get down the field for his size vertically, and he gains a lot of ground quickly, and he's competitive and physical. So you like his odds when the ball's up in the air 50-50. So that's number one, Chip. He might have less catches. He might have more yards and more touchdowns, and that's what we're looking for. And I'm super excited with the maturity he showed after having a good season. Sometimes you see they come in and they have a lapse, or they're lackadaisical, or they kind of feel like they've arrived. He's the opposite. He just continued to push, and had a great summer. With Joe D, right, so he's been a mentor of mine for about 15 years, right? So ever since I was at UTEP, an assistant of his came in, long story short, worked out one of our snappers for the draft and said, hey, you need to get with Joe D. You guys are very similar in coaching style. I was a young coach. I said, Joe D, I mean, he's like, the mecca of special teams coordinators at the time. I said, shoot, I called him, said, you want to speak at my clinic at UTEP? He said, yeah, for sure. So, here's the Jacksonville Jaguars special teams coordinator going to fly to El Paso and teach the clinic for 6 hours and do different speaking engagements. I'm like, this guy's awesome. He's humble. But I learned so much that 2-day span of clinic that I just followed him, and I just gained a great relationship from there. And whether it was Dallas or Chicago or Denver or L.A., I've always went out and saw him. He's always come and visited me, and we have a great friendship now besides professional relationship. And a lot of the teachings and the things that I believe in come from Joe D's background. And so when we had an opportunity to have him add to our staff, we couldn't pass it up. And I told Sark, we got to get this guy. And hey, look, at the end of the day, you want people around you that are great. And I think Joe D's great at what he does. He's a great situational coach. He's been in at a high level, and I think we can take that part of the game to the next level.
And the game management part.
Yes. So when I say situational coach, that's what I mean. I mean game management from fourth down on offense to fourth down on defense and all the rules in between. The guy has done it for Denver. He was an interim head coach there when Coob went down, and now at L.A. with Sean. So I think he's done it for a while. He sees that from a different lens than maybe some of us college coaches that are just focused on our positions and our calls. And I think Sark and I are fired up to have him.
Yeah, I'm curious if Joe D is telling the staff any stories about those 90 Cowboys. But also, Will Stone,
Yeah.
how has he developed as a kicker, and what does he need to do to kind of contend for more playing time?
Yeah, great question, because he's the most improved guy we've had this offseason. So from spring to summer, and I would really say the end of spring, I met with Will and challenged him. He still had issues getting the ball up on field goal. He still continued to drive the ball on kickoff and not get under it. And so I sent him this offseason to a couple guys that I thought can help him, can coach him, because our rules are challenged. We can't coach these guys out on the field in May. We're recruiting, and we don't have any practices. So he really took the bull by the horns. Our strength staff has put all kinds of things in his lap that have told us that he's really done remarkable in the weight room. And then to see him execute these last 7 weeks of summer, Will Stone's much improved. He's gonna compete, whether it's for long field goals, because obviously we believe in Burt greatly, but if it's long field goals or better kickoffs, I mean, I think his touchback ratio will double, from 26 to in the 50s. But I really like the track he's on.
Right, Joe? Terry.
Coach, when we talk to Coach Sarkisian, he loves talking about his team, but he comes alive when he talks about special teams.
Yeah.
It's likely because of the impact that you have on the game overall.
Yeah.
Can you share what happens when we get a block punt?
Yeah.
Or when we run it back from 40 yards?
Yeah.
What does it mean to the team and also the psychological impact?
Yeah, I think two things. You have offensive players, you have defensive players, right? So offense and defense, we call that we-fence. So we try to get the team to buy into that concept, that this is the only play where offensive and defensive players are going to be on the field at the same time, all working to a common goal, number one. Number two, we talk a lot about creating explosives, right, and creating turnovers in the special teams game. A block punt for us is a turnover. Forcing a turnover, knocking the ball loose on a returner, and so forth. The collective group of guys that's on that deal, yeah, there's going to be a DeMarvion Overshown or Roshan Johnson. There's going to be a high-profile player because we believe in that, and that sets the culture for our building. If our best players are playing teams, and they ain't got to get worn out, but if they're playing one or two and they're in impact positions, that's going to make those freshmen come in and say, that's what I want to do. It's not big enough for them. It ain't big enough for me. But the culture of that group on the sideline, that's a 60-person group. That's not an 11-person group. That's all those scout team guys, all those dudes that make those plays, and they're practicing the opponent's stuff, and they're trying to make them come alive. All of a sudden it comes alive. That one play that comes alive, it energizes the entire sideline, the entire team. And so to answer that question, that's what it's about for us, and that's what we try to build. And to be honest, Sark puts more time, and he's in more meetings on special teams than any head coach I've been in. And he has the energy level of me when it comes to talking about special teams, and that's grateful for me that I work for a guy that believes in it that much.
Thank you, Farla. Sam?
I wanted to come back to something you said about the start, call him best player on this. I'm curious what makes him that, and how do you see him balance that part of the job with everything that comes with
Yeah.
23 portal, year-round recruiting, staff management, all that?
His vision, when I say vision, offensive play caller, I mean when he can see what's going to happen next before it happens, that's vision, right? So he knows they're going to this once we go to that. His attacking mentality to never stop, yeah, as fans, you may say on Sunday, dang, I wish we wouldn't have thrown the ball deep so much, right? But as a team, as a group getting behind a play caller, as a play caller, no one's going to attack a defense more than Sark's going to, especially vertically. And so his vision to have a feel for the defensive play caller, what he's in, what he's doing, and where he's headed with the plays and the design of the plays is unbelievable. And again, we've all been around good offensive coordinators, but he's the best I've been around. As far as juggling everything, obviously year 3 is going to be better than year 2. Year 2 is better than year 1. Juggling it is a big deal. And in college football, I do think you get pulled more off the field even than the NFL because of recruiting. So it is going to be important that he continues to grow in that aspect of managing the job. But I think he's done it.
Yeah, Jeff, a lot was made about Roshan Johnson, his role in special teams.
Yeah.
But I think Roshan's on this roster.
Yeah, well, I mean, PK alluded to Keaton Crawford. And hey, look, with Keelan Robinson and Keaton Crawford, you turn on any play that they're in on, I'm going to show something to the team tonight. There's probably 6 of the 8 plays I'm going to show are Keaton Crawford and Keelan Robinson. I mean, these two guys are unbelievable. I think what made Roshan such a good player, special teams player, he's so selfless. Like, he didn't care. He wore jersey number 96 running down against Alabama so that we didn't have two number 2s on the field, and hits Jamar Gibbs in the face at the 18-yard line and doesn't say a word and runs off the field, takes the jersey off, puts his other jersey, and runs the ball. So, you know, those guys come around once so often, man, a guy like him. But I think what's great about Roschon is probably the imprint he's left off the players on the team now when he's left now. Now that he's left, the Jay Witts, some of these, even Xavier, all these guys have learned from Roe, not only on special teams, but on how to be a better leader, because he's as good a leader as I've been around a long time. And we're going to miss Roschon. There ain't nobody replacing that. But Keaton and Keelan in the special teams phase are probably as close as it gets.
You're right, Jeff. Just want to know your perspective when it comes to Will or whoever your kickoff guy is.
Yeah.
Do you want it laying at the 1? Do you want it
Yeah.
out the back? And
Yeah.
on the other way, do you want to take kicks out or do you want to just take the ball?
Yeah, on the kickoff portion of it, I want them to return every ball right now. The way we covered last year, return every ball. Because when I go to this meeting tonight and they show some of the kickoff stuff, that group's going to take the field to, Wednesday in practice, or they're going to take the field the first game against Rice, the first kick, and they're going to think they're going to tackle someone extremely physical inside the 20 because the tape proves it from last year. Now, what I'm going to preach is, hey, that don't count. What we did last year doesn't count for one kickoff cover this year. But I want them all. I want them to return them all. Now, I agree with you, or, I will say my philosophy in terms of touchbacks, there's a time and a place, too, where I don't want it to be a play. And so go ahead and drive it out and let's move on. Whatever that is, whether we're behind, whether we're up front, there's a situation every game where it's like, hey, I'm not going to tell this guy to do something that he's not used to doing, like hang the ball up with the wind and make a bad kick out of the situation. But certainly I don't mind if they return it right now with the group that we got coming back. On the kick return deal, hey, look, I'm mostly a 3-deep guy. If it goes further than 3-deep or where the top of those letters are, I'm usually a shut-it-down guy unless I see a team that I feel like we can really take advantage of. They're not covering hard. Maybe our personnel's better. Maybe their scheme is incorrect throughout the game, and now it's time to give them the green light to bring it back. But I'm not big on getting tackled inside the 25 either and having the offense start off in bad field position. So to answer your question, I'm probably a little more conservative now than I've been just because kickers have gotten better, more proficient. People play better players on teams. And I want to make sure our offense has the best chance to be successful starting that series.
Nick?
Yeah, Jeff, you mentioned JT Sanders before. I'm curious about the two other guys that came in, Gunner and Juan.
Yeah.
How have you seen that develop and what kind of impact can they maybe have this year?
Yeah, Gunner's killing it. Gunner's taking a professional mentality this summer. Lost weight, gotten quicker. To be honest, probably has the biggest chip in our room because he feels like he busts his ass. He plays extremely hard every day in practice. Him and JT came in together. They learned together. They both know the offense the exact same. JT's gotten most of the accolades and most of the production. Hey, look, that's okay. Like I told him, I'm good with that. I want you to be mad. Compete and make him better. And then know where your role's at. I felt like the last 4 games, he's a physical blocker in the C area. And we needed that. And we need it again this year. And I think, he's taking that chip to say, hey, I'm not saying that I'm better than JT. All I'm saying is I want to be on this field to help us win every game. And I want to be on it more and more and more. And I know he's not selfish when he says that. He's just saying, I'm ready. And I think he's lost body fat, gained strength, and gained leadership. I think he's a better vocal leader than he was 6 months ago. Gunner's going to have a great season. Juan, I feel so bad for this guy, man. Every time this guy gets rolling, he gets nicked up. And Juan is a tightly wound, low body fat, high muscle athlete. And sometimes there's just some things there from a muscle and soft tissue situation that you got to be careful with. And my biggest hope is that in 4 weeks from now, Juan's healthy, fast, and ready to go. That guy's a weapon in the passing game. He's become a much more physical blocker. The guy played high school quarterback. He had no idea how to play tight end, what motions were, all those things. He's got it now. He makes very few mental errors. So I love Juan, and I'm hoping that he continues to stay healthy because I think he'll have a role and he'll make some plays this season, whether it be on special teams or in the pass receiving game, that will help this team win. No.
Yeah, just that excitement.
It's so much quicker. And so now, you know, April 15th starts the spring recruiting period, right? So my big deal is by April 15th, obviously that's the end of spring ball, but at some point between February and April 15th, I'll visually watch all those top guys that I feel like in the country, 10, 12 punters, 10 or 12 kickers, whatever it is, right? I'll watch all those guys on film, I'll rate them, and I'll have a good feel for where they're at. Then we'll call the high school coaches before April 15th and get a feel for the character, competitiveness, because a lot of the guys that we're going to try to sign, they might not be the highest rated. We're looking for the competitiveness. We're looking for a self-starter, and usually we're looking for guys going to have to be mature enough to come in and start as a freshman, because we're only going to take a guy that's coming in to replace a guy. We don't want to have 5 specialists on scholarship at an 85-man roster. So long story short, April 16th, I hit the road. That's the first thing I'm doing is going to see the best guys. Then I'm offering them first. I don't care who else knows. I don't care who else offers them after me. I just feel like I got to get in front of it. Does that make sense? But when I go in spring recruiting, I get to see them at their practices in high school, and that lets me be able to judge the talent level as opposed to camp. And then the camp, now we use it for the next class. So now it's all about recruiting 25s and 26s and getting the best kickers and punters from Texas to come to our camps there and snappers, so we can get a beat on who's going to be the next group that we want to take.